Oh, is it time? It's time! 14 minutes. It's not as long as I thought. Oh, I'm so excited for this. So excited.
Metal Gear fans haven't had the best decade. The mainline series concluded with Hideo Kojima's unfinished masterpiece, The Phantom Pain, and
A lot of people don't know that. Metal Gear Solid 5 was unfinished because of Konami and Kojima's dispute. So, a lot of people think that the game's finished. It never was finished. The gameplay's there, the storyline is not.
2015, which coincided with his much publicized departure from Konami. Since then, the only new Metal Gear games we've gotten have been Metal Gear Survive, which was so bad that many took it as an indication the series would not actually survive, and a Pachinko machine, which, infuriatingly, featured fully remastered Snake Eater cutscenes. The jury's out on whether a new Metal Gear game without Hideo
Pachinko machine.
Kojima's involvement would be any good, or if we'll ever actually see one. But either way, Metal Gear Solid Delta seems like a damn fine alternative. A lovingly overhauled modern remake of what's considered by many to be the best game.
I think Konami hates Kojima because of how well these games did. These games are fucking masterpieces
in the series, and what's also probably the least confusing place for newcomers to jump into this incredible and incredibly confusing universe.
Because, like, this is the prequel to the second game. The third one, actually, it's a prequel to the first game, I'm sorry. It's the one that starts it all. So there's a good chance that if this game comes out and it blows the pot open, so to speak, we will get a remaster of every Metal Gear game.
But the big question is, after Delta, what next? From the obvious classics we all want to some lesser-known installments that could also use some love. I
love the gameplay of Phantom Pain. That was a good.
7 Metal Gear games that deserve modern remakes.
I grew up on the battlefield. Conflict and victory were my parents.
You're Russian, so that should say all it needs to say. Sorry.
Now's your best chance to slip in unnoticed.
Boys, we played through all these games.
One out of the way. Metal Gear Solid 1. The
Let's
original
go!
1998 PS1 game put the series on Western gamers' collective Soliton radar. It's a brilliant achievement in game design that's well deserving of its status as an all-time classic, but almost 30 years post-launch.
What's crazy is that even now, you could go back and play that game, and the controls are decent. For a PlayStation 1 era game, the controls are still really good.
It's a little bit.
They're funky from time to time, no doubt. Oh my god, is it good! Woo!
So yes, now is the time for Konami to remake Metal Gear Solid. But wait,
I agree.
Hold on. They already did that once. So I guess the question is, should they remake the original or remake the remake? In case you missed it, like an airborne projectile misses someone who's dramatically backflipping over it. Back in 2004, Konami outsourced a GameCube exclusive remake of Metal Gear Solid. Canadian developer Silicon Knights.
How did I miss this?
GameCube exclusive remake.
Whoa, that looks good! That's Metal Gear Solid? Nuh-uh.
Of Metal Gear Solid. Canadian developer Silicon Knights clearly didn't half-ass it, but the result was not quite a direct hit. For the most part, Twin Snakes looks and plays great. The original PS1 game's low-poly graphics are replaced with more detailed models and textures that make it look way more in line with Metal Gear Solid 2, and it benefits by implementing modern mechanics and systems that the sequel introduced. Twin Snakes let players hide in lockers or hang from ledges to avoid detection, shoot steam pipes and fire extinguishers to obstruct enemy vision, and the improved AI had the genome soldiers of Shadow Moses acting like they'd undergone some
Damn, that's crazy! They brought the genome soldiers? No way!
Possible for Snake to shoot in first-person view, something that wasn't an option on PS1. Unfortunately, this was a limitation that the original game had been designed around, and the addition changed the experience.
Oh my god, it's like playing Metal Gear Solid 2. That's insane. I know that's what he said, but like, that's impressive.
For example, the fight with Revolver Ocelot. In the original, it's a tense, claustrophobic top-down shootout, thanks to MGS1's fixed camera, but
you have to be careful because if you shoot the president, you could accidentally blow everything up, and he's in the center, So, like, if you press square to aim, it automatically locks onto whatever is nearby, except for the president. So if you're, like, trying to hit Ocelot as he's moving, you could accidentally shoot him in the face.
Aim down sights turns it into a shooting gallery, and Snake can defeat Ocelot while standing in one place.
Hiding won't help you. A gun's power isn't in it. Ah!
Most infamously, though,
If that's the case, then why is Snake dying? You say that. But, his health bar's looking kinda low there, ain't it?
A gun's power isn't in it. Ah!
Most infamously, though, Silicon Knights took liberties with the cutscenes, and they are widely considered over the top even by Metal Gear standards. Meanwhile, differences in the voice performances and the music just give Twin Snakes a completely different tone.
Yeah,
I need to play. Oh my god.
So, in short, Twin Snakes was the wrong way to go about a remake. Fortunately, the team working on Metal Gear Solid Delta seems well aware of that. The updated version adds a more modern third-person camera option that allows aiming and shooting simultaneously in addition to the original stop and pop.
That comes
system.
out this month,
Developers
actually.
acknowledged that the new run-and-gun capabilities actually made the game too easy, so they've sharpened the guards' reaction times if you're playing in that mode. It remains to be seen if this will do the
Run
trick,
and
but
gun.
the fact that they're acknowledging the issue is a promising sign. So again, the question is,
There's a run and gun feature? Dude, we're gonna play the shit out of this game.
Solid 1 from the ground up, or fix the issues of Twin Snakes in a modern engine. Whatever the case, there are countless players
I think there was a way to run and gun, wasn't there? There was a way to, like, move forward and, like, press the square button a certain way. That way it knocks out the enemies in Metal Gear Solid 3. I think I remember that.
the chance to revisit Shadow Moses and plenty more.
I would love if they remastered Metal Gear Solid 1. So that way we could revisit Shadow Moses and stop the events from occurring, dude. That would be so cool. We could see Meryl again. They need to remaster Metal Gear Solid 4, too. Man, that was probably the best game that I played other than maybe Metal Gear Solid 3. I want to play Metal Gear Solid 4 again, dude. That was a good game.
Why this game was such a big deal.
The game was so good, man. Yeah, a lot of people tried to shit on that game, but man, I will defend that game tooth and nail.
Place.
Boy, he's right on schedule.
Metal Gear Solid 2
might have been the first overt remake of Metal Gear Solid, but Metal Gear Solid 2 is sort of a stealth remake in its own right, rehashing and retooling many of the same encounters.
By the way, the guy that's covering this is legendary. You're doing a great job. Keep up the great work. This is good.
And boss fights.
You're doing a great job, brother.
In a fascinatingly meta way. Narratively, it tells a completely new story that goes in some bonkers directions, or at least it did at the time of its release. Sadly, some of the more out there ideas that Kojima was kicking around at the turn of the century are.
You think that it's out there, but if you string it along in the rest of the series, it actually makes a lot of sense. It does, because it has short-sighted references to prior games and games after it. So, like, there are instances of the Hallelujah Low, the Patriots, that you only really understand unless you don't really understand unless you've played either Metal Gear Solid 3 or the first one. You have to play these games in a type of way where you keep open-mindedness at the forefront of your brain, because if you don't, you're going to be confused no matter how many times you play these games. It took me a long time as a kid to understand what the fuck was going on in Metal Gear Solid 2. And then I played the other games and I was like,
terrifyingly feasible in the current geopolitical and technological landscape, which makes it a strong case for revisiting for new audiences.
It's all a show. Democracy is just a filler for textbooks.
Part of the reason Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is so good is that it confidently builds on mechanics and systems established by MGS2. That kind of iteration is common with video game sequels.
A lot of people don't know this, but if you have the silencer on the handgun, you could actually break the cameras.
Mechanics and systems established by MGS2. That kind of iteration is common with video game sequels, but Kojima had a tendency
I think I did that whenever we played it.
Subsequent Metal Gear installments.
There is one game, actually two, out of the entire series that I've beaten in the hardest difficulty. And that is, actually no, technically three. Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom of the Pain. It sucked, especially if you're trying to get S ratings. It sucked. I hated every second of it. Metal Gear Solid 3, that is the easiest by hands down the easiest for the old consoles to beat in the hardest difficulty. And oh fuck, what was the other one, dude? Son of a bitch. Actually, technically there was 4. There's Peace Walker, that was for the PSP. I beat that one on the hardest difficulty with all S ranks. And then there's fuck. There was another one. Oh, Metal Gear Solid 4, of course. That was the other one I beat in the hardest difficulty. It's so fun. Like, that's what's so weird. I wanted to beat Metal Gear Rising, but I just didn't have enough time with that game to be able to do it. But Metal Gear Rising is really good as well. That's another one that I haven't been able to get my hands on because I can't seem to get the console, the PlayStation 3, to work with my OBS setup. So I haven't been able to record it or stream it. I just don't know why. I got the splitter, but like it just won't work. It won't display. I don't know why. I tried for hours and it just won't fucking work. They're both really good games.
Sometimes that was pushing the boundaries of the platform, like he did with the PlayStation
That was
3
Portable
Metal
Ops.
Gear installments. Sometimes that
Yeah, that's Portable Ops, I believe. So there's 3 games. I think there's 3 Metal Gear Solid games for the PlayStation Portable and one for the Vita. It was Portable Ops, Peace Walker, and then something else. I don't think I played it, but I played Portable Ops and Peace Walker. Portable Ops is a gem. If you've never played it, it's great. It's kind of like the first one where you could play as other characters that aren't Snake. It's weird. And it's also the first one that implemented that if you're playing as another character, and not like it's the first game ever, but it's the first one in the series where if you play as a different character and the character dies, you don't get that character again. He's dead.
was pushing the boundaries of the platform, like he did with the PlayStation 3 and PSP for Metal Gear Solid 4.
How's it going? I am a Five Nights at Freddy's plushie warehouse, but I just changed my name. Oh, welcome back. Nice name change. That obsessed Garden of Ban person. That's funny, dude. That's funny.
Other times,
I like your new name.
Entire next-gen game engine from scratch and reimagining the entire gameplay loop, like he did for Metal Gear Solid 5. In any case, not having to completely work from the ground up is a plus.
Is that Peace Walker? Or is that no? That's 5.
In any case, not having to completely work from the ground up is a plus. Something that the original Snake Eater benefited from in the wake of MGS2, and something that a remake of 2 could benefit from.
I must, over my lifetime, I think I've played Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, bare minimum of 20 times each. Like, we're looking at the same scenario with God of War, where I would wake up, I would make a new save, and I would beat it. Now, Metal Gear Solid 2 is way too long for me to beat in one sitting. I usually had to, take 2 days to beat it, but I would sit there and just beat that shit in a new save slot every time on the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 1... I don't think I was able to play Metal Gear Solid 1 until a friend gave me a PlayStation 1, and they had I already had Metal Gear Solid 1 because I had gotten it part of a box set with Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, and I was finally able to sit down and play Metal Gear Solid 1 with the original console and controller and memory card. It was the most fun experience I think I've ever had with a console that was old school like that. It was amazing. Then I had, whenever you come across Psycho Mantis, you have to change the controller cord and put it in slot 2 so that way he doesn't attack you. It's great.
Heels of Delta.
Good luck to both of you. This is a dangerous one.
After working on the Snake Eater remake, the team at Konami presumably has a pretty good feel for what works and what doesn't when modernizing a PS2-era Metal Gear game in Unreal Engine.
I'm just reminiscing. I'm kind of adding my own flow to it, if that makes any sense. I love talking about these games. They're so good.
Applying that knowledge to a remake of Metal Gear Solid 2 would be much less of a leap than trying to modernize something designed for the PS1.
Just imagine a Metal Gear Solid 2 remake. Just imagine that. Yo, I would gladly sit down and play these games. I'm going to be playing that new one that's going to come out here soon. It's coming out. What's the date? 19th. It's supposed to be coming out, I think, on the 30th.
Earlier. Of course, the downside of following up Delta with a remake of MGS2 is that nobody would know what the hell is going on. That's not an uncommon sensation when playing Metal Gear games, but it would be especially confusing going into
they have to line these games up in a way that would make sense to the modern audience.
Liberty Cold, which is heavily referential to its predecessor.
Because you have to keep in mind that there's a good chance that when they made these games, Peace Walker was so good. If you haven't played Peace Walker, if you have a PlayStation 3, get Peace Walker and play it. It is, in my opinion, almost as good as Metal Gear Solid 5 as far as gameplay. I enjoyed spending hours and hours and hours and hours trying to S rank all the missions.
Konami stated
It's got like a comic book themed cutscene system. It's so good because you have to realize Metal Gear Solid was coming out with a comic book as well. In fact, whenever I got Metal Gear Solid 3, it had a comic book in it.
Remaking Metal Gear Solid 3 is that there's an entire generation of gamers that's unfamiliar with the series. The whole reason they replaced the 3 with a triangle or a delta or whatever is so those newcomers aren't scared off by the number 3 not having played the first two. But that's the thing. Metal Gear Solid 3 is the earliest game in the series chronologically.
It's supposed to be set as a prequel to everything else. This is Big Boss. This is his story. Now, if anytime you hear throughout the rest of the games, Big Boss is always brought up. He's the reason why Metal Gear Solid 2, Liquid, you've got Liquid, you've got Ocelot, you've got Snake himself, and then you've got Raiden. Those are all offspring of Big Boss. They're all like genetically engineered DNA soldiers from Big Boss's DNA. That's where all this comes from. In Metal Gear Solid 4, they really talk about it, which is the reason why I'm really bummed that Metal Gear Solid 4 isn't rebooted yet, because you really find out a lot about everything that happened from Metal Gear Solid 4. They really go in depth about like the first 3 games.
And its immediate follow-up, Peace Walker, doesn't even have a number attached to it, making it a perfect contender for their next remake. Originally developed as a full-scale console-grade Metal Gear Solid experience exclusive to the PlayStation Portable, Peace Walker takes place a decade after the events of Snake Eater, so jumping into a remake of that immediately after playing Delta.
In fact, they made Peace Walker, I feel like, in a way that should have been on the console, because you revisit so many sites from Metal Gear Solid 3. You revisit the flower field where you defeat Boss. You revisit so many sites. I don't understand why they didn't make this as a console thing. Why they made it as handheld? Because a lot of people didn't have the handheld, the Vita. But it was
great
so
way to
good.
experience the story. Even better, Peace Walker directly sets up the events of Metal Gear Solid 5, which doesn't need a remake because it still looks and plays incredibly a decade after it came out. Peace Walker already had a remaster as part of the HD collection, which put it graphically in line with MGS2 and MGS3, with the exception of the cutscenes. To account for the limitations of the PSP, most of Peace Walker's cutscenes are effectively motion comics, gorgeous ones illustrated by Ashley Wood, but not exactly cinematic. However, if Konami were to remake it, perhaps those motion comics could act as animatics for full-fledged cutscenes on par with the other mainline entries.
I agree.
After all, Konami's got all those gorgeous new character models from Delta, and Peace Walker's already fully voice acted, so just throwing that one out there.
We know who you
Throw
are,
it out there, boss.
Boss. That is why
Pause! It's pause!
Another accommodation made for the PSP is that Peace Walker's gameplay is mission-based, much better suited for players on the go than the more linear structure of previous games. The addition of multiplayer also made the conventionally solitary sneaking experience a social one. While there was competitive versus mode, Peace Walker's strong suit was co-ops, a series of missions.
So in this one, you fight like AI robots, and every time you defeat an AI robot, you could break off parts of it. Like if you shoot its wings or you shoot its legs, you break off those parts and you can add those AI parts to your own AI thing that you make. So like how it is in Metal Gear Solid 5, whenever you send people off to do like missions or whatever, you send off your own Peace Walker, which effectively makes you like, it gets you rewards and stuff, but it also is how, like, Metal Gear Solid 5, you get the nuke, and then you're a dominating power. It's the same thing, effectively. Like, once you do that, it puts your base up on the map as, like, like you could be raided and stuff, I believe.
Before players,
because you do get a base, just like in Metal Gear Solid 5. In Peace Walker, you make your own base.
a first for the series. Bear in mind, online multiplayer wasn't as ubiquitous when Peace Walker originally launched, so playing together in-game
I didn't even know this had
PSP owners
multiplayer.
squatting up in close physical
I
proximity.
had no idea
Why
this
does
had
matter?
multiplayer.
Well, there's a cool new console that just dropped called the Nintendo Switch 2, which people have been known to take on the go from time to time. It even has a feature that allows two Switch owners to use one copy of the same game if they're playing locally, making it a perfect device to replicate the spirit of Peace Walker with modern touches. Meanwhile, there's also that enormous mobile gaming market out there, which might enjoy some bite-sized Metal Gear missions. And hey, if it's possible to get the RE4 remake and Death Stranding running on an iPhone, an Unreal 5 version of an old PSP game seems well within the realm of possibility.
I need to play this. I've never played this. This is like the OG games right here.
Now, if we're concerned about modern audiences playing the Metal Gear
There's
series
two of
in
these.
chronological order, the big hurdles are Metal Gear 1 and 2, which are the oldest games in the series, but which take place immediately after the most recent game in the series, Metal Gear Solid 5, but which also introduce most of the key characters of Metal Gear Solid, which for all intents and purposes is actually the first game in the series, even though it's technically the third.
I've never played these. I saw the animations for them and I was like, dude, I'm gonna break something. Maybe they're good. I've never played them.
Solid Snake were released initially for the MSX computer in 1987 and 1990 respectively, and largely weren't a thing outside of Japan.
I'm gonna have
The
to
original
play
Metal Gear
these,
Solid
huh?
regularly name checks events that took place in these games, only one of which was
This
even
is
released.
Big Boss. Mission, gain access to the enemy fortress, Outer Haven.
Stateside.
Oh, this
Everyone
is
managed to
Outer
make sense
Haven.
of it well enough, so maybe it's a non-issue, and these games don't need to be remade. But then again, it would be pretty cool to have a little more context for Solid Snake and Big Boss's relationship. Look at Yakuza 0. It's a prequel that adds context to
If you haven't
established
played the
characters in
Yakuza
a
series, absolutely recommend the Yakuza series. Such great
running
games.
series, while also acting as a great jumping on point for new players.
Not even that the story is good, the gameplay is phenomenal.
Obviously, comparing Yakuza and Metal Gear is like comparing apples and cardboard boxes full of oranges, but it's a thought. The problem is that Metal Gear 1 and 2 are so ancient visually and mechanically that remaking them in any modern sense would essentially be making new games from the ground up. But
Yeah.
one could also argue that their age also makes them the most deserving of a modern remake. Could
I
this be the
agree.
secret to continuing the series without Hideo Kojima? Find some developers who have an appropriate amount
They
of...
don't. It doesn't matter. Even if Kojima isn't there, these games already have the plot. They're already done. They're already, like, all they need is some voice acting and then they're good. Like, how you wouldn't even have to voice act these games. People know this series and have been longtime fans of the series. You wouldn't even have to voice act them. You could just do the text boxes with Unreal Engine 5 graphics. People would understand why. I kid you not. I would play that immediately. I should play the original ones as well.
reverence and appreciation for the source material, but aren't afraid to try new things, and then let them use these primordial stealth action games as a loose framework for new installments? Think about it. We've gotten Star Wars movies that weren't directed by George Lucas. We've gotten Alien
How's
and
it
Blade Runner
going,
movies that weren't
Gojo?
directed by Ridley
Sorry
Scott,
about that.
and
I
we've
didn't
gotten
see you there.
Indiana Joneses and Jurassic Parks that weren't directed by Steven Spielberg. Are these all better than the originals?
Sorry about that. Whenever I get in my rants, dude, I just want to talk about this. I love this series. I could sit here and talk about
Well,
this series
usually
all
no,
day.
but occasionally yes. And either way, they keep things interesting.
Like, I can't do what I did for God of War. Like, how we had that chit chatter that was talking, like, certain things about God of War. I can't do that with this game without fact checking myself because the series is just so big and there's so many intricate pieces and story and Easter eggs in the story that, like, I'd actually have to fact check just to make sure that I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Think of it this way. Snake owes most of his existence to James Bond, a character who's been rebooted.
That's right. Kojima did say that. He said that he made Snake off of James Bond. Like the whole espionage era.
Repeatedly since his debut in Ian Fleming's original novels. So, is this a blasphemous idea? Metal Gear games made without the involvement of Hideo Kojima? Well, it's an idea that's been around almost as long as Metal Gear has, which brings me to our next game.
This is the second one? What is this? Oh, he ran from it. Snake's Revenge.
Way back
Metal
in
Gear
1990,
2.
Konami published a sequel to the original Metal Gear. Specifically, the port released on the Nintendo Entertainment System, not the
That
MSX
is
version.
ancient,
At the
dude.
time, Hideo Kojima was nose down in another department working on PC games, so he was surprised as everyone else to learn that Snake was back in someone else's game.
Lieutenant.
Snake's Revenge has a decidedly different tone than the original Metal Gear, and while it still resembles its predecessor, it pales in comparison. The early entries in the Metal Gear series aren't held in quite the same high regard as the later ones, so hardcore fans generally just kind of ignore this entry.
Yo, that looks like the same room that you go in whenever you fight, not Fragile. Is it Fragile? Man, I'm getting my stories mixed up with Death Stranding now. No, it's not Fragile. What is the name of the lady that can't get shot in Metal Gear Solid 2? What? No. What is the name of the black lady in Metal Gear Solid 2? Fortune. That's what it is. Jesus. Fortune.
Then harbor full-blown disgust and resentment towards it like they do for something like Metal Gear Survive. So why the hell should Snake's Revenge get revenge on gamers? Well, we've seen some wonderful results when dormant 8 and 16-bit franchises get handed off to smaller, scrappier developers who put a modern twist on classic formats. Double Dragon Neon, Streets of Rage 4, Sonic Mania, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. Hell, even Konami gave us Contra Operation Galuga, and just this year we're getting Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and Shinobi Art of Vengeance.
I don't know why they would release Ninja Gaiden so close to the release of Ninja Gaiden 4. Like, or Ninja Gaiden, whatever the new one is. It made no sense to me. Because, like, you could play this one, yes. Or you could just play the new one.
Campy throwback game based on the mainline Metal Gear series might sour fans, but Snake's Revenge seems ripe for it. Revenge already has the RE in it, which makes it sound like some kind of a retro reboot. Maybe you could incorporate some cool sounding play on the word revenge that Metal Gear fans already have a fondness for. You know, like Revengeance? Okay, so maybe a reimagining of the least official Metal Gear game ever made.
I would love to see Metal Gear Revengeance get remastered.
It is straying far from the idea of Metal Gear remakes, but Kojima himself has gone on record to say that Snake's Revenge was faithful to the concept of Metal Gear. Of course, he also later said that it was crappy, but then he changed his mind about that, so who knows?
Hey, it'd be like that.
One issue with remaking a Metal Gear game is that the originals are so, well, solid. I mean, literally, these games are classic for a reason.
They
are. The stealth action gameplay is extremely fine-tuned. Attempting to recreate
like, even for its time, the graphics and the engine that they built for these games blew everything else out of the water that could even light a flame to it. Not even like it's just crazy to think that this game is as old as it is, this series, and it still stands up today, even if it's clunky. It's so good.
That people have etched into their brains and committed to muscle memory is bound to be heavily scrutinized. But what about revisiting something that didn't leave quite as much of an imprint despite its corrosive properties? I'm talking about Metal Gear Acid.
Acid? What is this?
The first Metal Gear game released for the PSP, Acid took the established characters and universe of the franchise to tell a brand new story, but it swapped out the familiar stealth action for card collecting and tactical turn-based combat. Back in 2004, I personally wrote it off because I had no interest in waiting my turn to CQC somebody, much less having to put down a card to do it, but these days that concept seems a lot more appealing. And I have a hunch I'm not the only one who feels that way.
Nobody's buying those games. No one's buying these card games, bro. Unless it's Magic the Gathering or a Yu-Gi-Oh! Or maybe even a Pokemon-based game, or some of the other ones that have come out that are cartoons, no one's touching this. I would play this because it's Metal Gear Solid.
Much bigger audience for deck-building RPGs now than there was 20 years ago, and pretty much everyone has a cell phone that
looks
can handle
crazy.
PSP graphics. Ideally, if this got remade, it'd be as a standalone, slightly retooled modern version of the original, but, you know, considering how much money Konami rakes in from free-to-play mobile games and Yu-Gi-Oh cards, I could also see this going in a direction that gamers are not quite as happy about. But hey, either way, at least it's not another f***ing pachinko machine.
Right? MGA, Metal Gear, PSP, oh yeah, Acid. That's
so
weird.
There you have it, the Metal Gear games that we'd like to see remade. Sound off in the comments with your own personal picks, and hey, while we're at it, what non-Metal Gear Kojima games need remakes? Should they put Boktai on Switch and sell a little USB-C solar sensor dongle? Or do a 4K remaster of Snatcher and Police Knots? Or should Konami just get over itself and put PT back on the PlayStation Store
that
so
ain't
you can
gonna happen.
download it again? Anyway, for more on Kojima...
That ain't gonna happen. What a great video. W video. What is this?